On a quiet Saturday afternoon, a single black mother took her young son to the park, hoping for a rare moment of peace after a long week. She packed his favorite snacks, spread out a blanket, and watched him laugh freely under the open sky. But her calm day quickly turned into a nightmare when patrol cars pulled up, their lights flashing, drawing the stares of strangers. Officers approached her with suspicion, not kindness. What they didn't realize was that the woman they were targeting wasn't just a mother enjoying the park. She was an FBI agent. Her name was Danielle Carter, a 34-year-old single mother raising her 7-year-old son, Malik. Danielle worked long hours in a demanding career, and weekends were sacred, a chance to step away from the chaos of her professional life and simply be mom. She chose the park that afternoon because it was one of the few places where Malik could run freely, climb, and laugh without limits. It was a simple joy, but one she cherished deeply. Danielle was no stranger to challenges. Growing up, she had seen firsthand how systemic injustice and racial profiling affected her community. Her journey had been one of resilience, pushing through stereotypes and expectations that tried to hold her back. She had earned degrees, trained harder than most of her peers, and proven herself in one of the most competitive fields imaginable. But she never broadcast her career, never revealed a badge tucked away in her purse. To most, she was just another mother trying to give her child the best life possible. That day, she wore a simple hoodie, jeans, and sneakers. Nothing extraordinary, nothing that should have drawn attention. She sat quietly on a bench, watching Malik chase after a soccer ball, while the sun dipped lower in the sky. She smiled, thinking how these were the memories her son would carry into adulthood. The ones she wanted him to remember most, not the stress or sacrifices behind closed doors. But while Danielle focused on her son, someone else at the park was watching her. A stranger made a call, reporting what they believed was suspicious behavior. Within minutes, a squad car rolled up. Soon after, 2 more arrived. The ordinary, peaceful afternoon that Danielle had planned for her child was about to shift into something far more dangerous. The first sign that something was wrong came when Malik froze mid-laugh. His little hands gripped the soccer ball tightly as he stared at the flashing red and blue lights reflecting across the park. Danielle's heart sank. She had seen those lights countless times in her professional life, but never directed at her personally. Not like this. 3 officers stepped out of their vehicles, hands resting on their belts, scanning the area until their eyes locked on her. Danielle's stomach tightened. Parents who had been sitting nearby suddenly gathered their children, pulling them closer, whispering under their breath. Within seconds, the park felt less like a place of joy and more like a stage, with Danielle cast as the unwilling center of attention. An officer gestured toward her, then approached slowly, his expression unreadable. Danielle's mind raced, but outwardly she stayed calm. She knew that as a black woman, any sign of resistance, no matter how small, could escalate the situation. Malik dropped the ball and rushed back to her side, confusion written all over his innocent face. He tugged at her sleeve and whispered, "Mom, what's happening?" She placed a steady hand on his shoulder and told him to stay calm, even as her own pulse quickened. The officers asked questions, pointed, invasive, and laced with unspoken judgment. Why was she here? Who was she with? Did she have identification? Danielle felt every stare from the crowd, every ounce of suspicion aimed at her. She answered firmly but respectfully, though each word carried the weight of years of prejudice she had fought against. Her tone remained controlled, but the sting of being profiled in front of her son cut deeper than anything else. As one officer requested to see inside her bag, Danielle's thoughts spiraled. She wasn't worried about them finding anything incriminating. There was nothing but snacks, sunscreen, and Malik's toy cars. But she knew the humiliation wasn't about what was inside her bag. It was about stripping away her dignity in front of her child and her community. Malik's small hand squeezed hers tighter. She could feel his fear, his confusion. He didn't understand why the people who were supposed to protect him were now treating his mother like a threat. Danielle forced a smile down at him, silently promising that she wouldn't let this moment break them. The questioning dragged on, each demand harsher than the last. Danielle remained steady, but inside, anger brewed like a storm. She had spent her entire career working to uphold the law, to dismantle the very systems of injustice now standing in front of her. Yet here she was, not an agent, not a professional, not even a respected citizen, just another black woman viewed as suspicious. Then came the turning point. One officer moved closer, his tone sharp, almost accusatory, as if daring her to slip up. He ordered her to stand, hands visible, while Malik clung desperately to her side. The crowd's silence grew heavier, and Danielle knew the situation was one wrong move away from spiraling into something far more dangerous. What the officers didn't realize was that Danielle carried something in her purse besides her son's belongings, something that could change the entire dynamic in an instant. Her badge. She had held back revealing it, choosing patience over confrontation. But as the tension escalated and the line between safety and danger blurred, Danielle understood she might have no choice but to reveal who she truly was. The air was heavy with tension. Danielle stood, her hands visible as instructed, Malik clutching her leg with wide, tearful eyes. The officers exchanged glances, their suspicions deepening. One of them stepped forward, hand hovering near his weapon, as though she were moments away from becoming a threat. Danielle's pulse pounded in her ears, but her face betrayed no fear. She had been trained for high-pressure situations, though never like this, never with her child's safety hanging in the balance. The officer demanded again, identification. Danielle reached slowly for her bag, every movement deliberate, her heart aching at the thought that her son was witnessing this humiliation. She unzipped the side pocket, pulled out her wallet, and with steady hands, withdrew the leather case she always carried. She flipped it open, holding it firmly in front of the nearest officer. The golden letters gleamed in the fading sunlight. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Special Agent Danielle Carter. For a moment, silence blanketed the park. The officer's expression shifted from stern authority to sudden shock. His posture stiffened, his eyes darting between her face and the badge. Behind him, the other officers froze, their hands slowly lowering from their belts. The crowd, too, rippled with whispers. Danielle's voice cut through the silence, calm, firm, and unwavering. She didn't need to shout. The weight of her title spoke, louder than anything else. The very people who moments ago had questioned her right to sit in a public park were now confronted with the truth. The woman they profiled was not only innocent, but someone who had dedicated her life to upholding the law they claimed to represent. The lead officer's jaw clenched. His authority, once unshakable, now cracked under the weight of his mistake. Danielle could see the embarrassment flash across his face, but it did nothing to undo the damage that had already been done. Malik, still holding onto her leg, looked up at his mother with newfound awe and confusion. He didn't fully grasp the meaning of the badge, but he understood this much. His mother was powerful, and the officers were wrong. At that moment, the entire park realized it too. The officers stepped back, their confidence unraveling. One stammered an apology, but it sounded hollow, more like a reflex than genuine remorse. Danielle held her ground, her badge still in hand, her son still pressed against her side. She didn't raise her voice, didn't lash out, though every fiber in her body burned with anger. She simply looked at them, long enough for silence to become heavier than words. Finally, she tucked her badge away and crouched down to meet Malik's eyes. She brushed his cheek gently, reassuring him that he was safe, even though she knew this moment would linger in his memory. He had witnessed something no child should have to see. His mother treated as a suspect because of the color of her skin. The park slowly returned to life. Parents who had once pulled their children away now glanced uneasily at Danielle, their expressions a mix of shame and disbelief. Some avoided her gaze altogether. Others looked as though they wanted to say something but couldn't find the courage. The officers, realizing the crowd's judgment had turned on them, retreated to their vehicles. Within minutes, the flashing lights disappeared, leaving behind only the quiet rustle of the wind and the faint sound of Malik's soccer ball rolling across the grass. Danielle stood tall, holding her son's hand, her resolve unshaken. She knew this wasn't just about her. It was about every black mother who had been watched too closely, questioned too harshly, or treated as less than they were. Her badge had saved her from escalation, but she couldn't ignore the truth. Without it, the outcome might have been very different. As she guided Malik toward the car, she thought about the future. How many more mothers would face moments like this? How many children would be left carrying scars of fear and mistrust? The story of that day would stay with Danielle forever, not as a reminder of her strength, but as a reflection of a nation still struggling to see people for who they truly are. And so, the question lingers: if a federal agent can be profiled in broad daylight, what does that mean for those without a badge to protect them?